Hello and welcome to the second unit of our third week in the course Avoid SAP S/4HANA project delays with third-party system service virtualization. My name is Konstantinos Tsakalos, and in this unit I will show you how to utilize service virtualization for performance testing. In the second week we observed Daphne applying various service virtualization scenarios in practice. Today, making use of the configured scenarios, Oscar is planning to help Sarah and the IT performance team. Independently of the project type, brownfield, greenfield, or bluefield, Sarah must ensure the readiness of the systems for the real production flow of messages. This is extremely challenging, starting from the greenfields, where usually there are no reference data to use for testing, and moving to the brownfields and bluefields implementations, where the IT team must reach out to the different departments or even to third-party systems in order to perform the required system tests. All the required actions, such as dependencies from other teams or EDI partners from test data, usually take the most significant amount of time for the preparation phase. So, being able to automate the most time-consuming tasks gives tremendous benefits. In this lesson, we are going to focus on the SAP process orchestration, playing the role of the integration platform in our examples, but keep in mind that it could be any integration platform instead, and SAP S/4HANA will be the backend system. With the INT4 service virtualization, Sarah and her team can minimize their actions on the performance test preparation as well as on the test executions. As a result, the testing can be performed immediately, and the team can focus on the actual performance analysis on the integration platform or the backend without any delays. Let's highlight the importance of the performance testing as one of the key points in the whole organization. Performance testing is the guarantee that each system will be reliable, stable, with acceptable response time and speed. On the SAP projects, Sarah and Oscar usually focus on the following types of performance testing, which can be automated by the service virtualization. Initial load testing checks the system's ability to perform under anticipated message flow. The objective is to identify performance bottlenecks before the system goes live. Next, we have the stress testing, which validates the system performance under extreme high traffic of messages. The objective is to identify the breaking point of the system. Then there is the endurance testing, which is performed to ensure that the system will handle the expected load over a long period of time. And last but not least, volume testing. Under volume testing, large numbers of data are used and the system behavior is monitored during processing. The objective is to check the system performance under varying database volumes. So let's have a close look into those points and how Sarah is benefiting from the service virtualization. Starting with some initial loads, Sarah is making basic checks on the SAP PO or SAP S/4HANA systems to ensure that the messages flow through the interfaces without any major issues. Additionally, those initial loads validate the processing of the backend programs, RFCs, database, and so on. Completely automatic load testing can be done utilizing already stored messages by the INT4 suite configuration, either validating singly interface or complete end-to-end scenarios. Usually, end-to-end tests are dependent on the external systems and they are omitted. But as Daphne already configured the INT4 messenger in the Unit 4 and 5 of the second week, the external systems can be virtualized and the dependencies are eliminated. This means that the only thing that Oscar has to do now is just make sure that the service virtualization is active for the specific interfaces. Utilizing both INT4 API Tester and INT4 Messenger, Oscar and Sarah can completely automate the performance testing, eliminating all the external dependencies or manual actions. Moreover, in the full end-to-end order-to-cache example from the previous units, during performance load testing, by automating and virtualizing all the steps, Sarah's team can focus on monitoring SAP S/4HANA as well the SAP Process Orchestration System performance. For this type of performance testing, the volume plays a secondary role. The importance lays on the reliability of the system components. If nothing breaks with those initial loads, then Sarah is good to move to the next stages. As I mentioned before, the stress testing is checking the limits of the systems. There is no need to use a big variety of data, but for example, repeat the same message 1000 times, 10,000 times, or even more till you reach the processing capability of the system. Oscar can trigger any of the already stored messages in the INT4 API tester any number of times in just a few seconds. So from configuration perspective, there is no need for additional actions. Oscar just waits for the go order from Sarah. Endurance testing. This is in fact the most important point in the brownfield implementations, or specifically during any SAP PO or SAP S/4HANA version upgrades. When moving from an older SAP system version to a newer one, or from ECC to S4, it is completely understandable that performance improvement is expected. Mendy's business requirement is replicating the full message flow from production into the quality system where the performance will be monitored. Oscar and Sarah can easily accomplish this requirement with a quick one-time configuration. With Mendy's knowledge behind the business processes, Oscar is configuring service virtualization for specific interfaces that will be utilized to perform the endurance testing. At this part of the project, the basic configuration in the INT4 suite is already done. Oscar just needs the list of the interfaces that he has to configure, and in just a few steps he is able to replicate in near real time the production message flow into the development or quality environment. This testing can last from a few days up to a couple of weeks, and it shows the readiness of the new system to handle the productive flow. Actually, there is no better way to validate the system performance than this, as this should always be the minimum requirement before go live. The volume testing can be separated into different scenarios: SAP PO performance, S4 inbound, S4 outbound, and also combination or end-to-end tests. Usually this is nothing more than taking a bunch of messages and injecting them into the desired system. For distinct interfaces, Sarah requires to perform end-to-end volume testing as well. In this case, the INT4 messenger can be utilized, the external dependencies are eliminated, and so quickly and easily inbound, outbound interfaces and backend performance can be monitored immediately. Of course, in this scenario, already collected messages by the INT4 API tester can be reused to inject same large volume of messages into the system. Let's have a quick look at how Oscar triggers such volume test. Oscar already captured with the INT4 API tester original productive messages into separate folders for the performance testing. Once he gets the green light from Sarah that traces measuring the performance are on, with just a couple of mouse clicks, he can trigger a couple of thousand messages. Sarah wants 5,000 outbound IDOC messages to be sent. So Oscar just executes the 100 collected test cases with runtime parameters. Oscar could select any number of the test cases and just run them as many times as he wishes. Now he provides a test run name, performance testing for example. The rest default values are not relevant at this moment. The second thing that Oscar must configure is the repeat times in the performance testing tab. He repeats the 100 test cases 50 times, which is the number that Sarah requested. Oscar also uses the execute using parallel processing to make sure the messages are injected as fast as possible. We click OK, yes. Few seconds later, we can see the information that messages were injected successfully. One last thing that Oscar can do is to take a quick look at the SAP PO monitor to validate if the messages were processed correctly. Indeed, we can see the 5,000 messages in the monitor that are being processed. Now Oscar has to inform Sarah that she can take over and monitor the performance. In this case, Oscar's job is done and the rest performance analysis will be held by Sarah. But in general, the ANT4 API tester allows also to roughly measure the processing times on SAP process orchestration, the posting of the inbound iDocs or business documents in the backend, as well as the outbound business document repeat time in the SAP S/4HANA. Summarizing this lesson, we highlighted the importance of the performance testing on both integration platform level as well as on the backend. We investigated some examples of reusability of existing configuration, like service virtualization of external systems for the backend performance testing, live production message flow simulation, or stress testing of the systems by loading a large number of messages into any environment. Sarah is now delighted because her team can validate performance tests of scenarios where previously, without the INT4 suite, it was almost impossible due to the third-party system dependencies. The amount of saved time and money during the project is significant, not mentioning any unpredictable costs in case of performance failure after the go-live. Good job, Oscar. You made Sarah happy. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. See you in the next one, where Michał is going to present how to integrate service virtualization with UI testing tools.